There we go. Okay, so good morning and welcome. As I say, today we are going to be looking at printing spreadsheets. So we'll have a look at all the little elements around doing some printing. We'll look at how to add in, control what you actually print. We'll look at how you add in headers and footers and information onto that. What else will we look at? How to shrink down, when you print and you've got one column that remains on that, on its own separate page and so on. So we'll be covering all things about printing spreadsheets. They're really my top tip for you is please don't print spreadsheets. They're not really built for printing, but sometimes obviously we do need to print them. But you've probably yourself had an experience where you've gone Control P, to print out your spreadsheet, and you go to the printer and it's just going, it prints out like 60 or 70 pages. Spreadsheets aren't really designed for printing, but I understand that sometimes we do need to. But do consider other things. Is it actually that you need to recreate a table or put it in something like a presentation or put it into a Word document? Is it really appropriate to print the spreadsheet itself? But there you go. One of the things that I'll show you as well is how you can actually print them so they don't look like spreadsheets. So there's ways that you can print things as well. You can create forms and things in and then print them out so they don't actually look like a spreadsheet. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to, let's get cracking. I'm just going to turn my video off and there we go. All right. Okay. Let's get into my spreadsheet. Okay, so my lovely big spreadsheet, which I use for all sorts of things. So you can see along here, we've got quite a few columns. So we go up to column L, and if I come here, you'll see I've got about 10,000 rows of data there as well. So it's quite a lot of data. So if I just went Control P to print this, you will see there, oh, hang on, let me just move my thing out of the way so I can see what I'm doing. You can see that I've got 1,000 pages it's going to print. So if we sort of flick through this print preview, you'll see it's not going to be much use to me. So if I hit print on that, I'm going to kill a small forest. So I don't want to do that. So the first thing to think about is what is actually you want to print. There are different ways that we can look at exactly what we want to print. So if we go to page layout, you'll find here that we have this thing called the print area. So with this print area, we can set a print area. So let's say I just want to, oops, let me just, sorry, trying to work without a mouse. Let's say that this is the part of the report I'm really interested in. Let's say that I've pivoted this and I just want to print out the pivot table or something like that. I'll select this here and I can say with print area, I can say set print area. Now when I go Control P, you'll see that I've only got, well, I've still got 2 pages, but you'll see probably if I just change my orientation to my landscape, there you go, I've now got 1 page. So I could just print that off. Okay. So there's this set print area, and then I can also come in here and say clear print area, and then when I go Control P, I'm back to, well, I've changed my orientation, so I've now got 888 pages. Okay, all right. So setting the print area is a great way to say I don't want to print my entire spreadsheet. I'm just going to print this particular part. So as I say, it may be that if you've summarized, you've done a report, or maybe you've done a chart or something like that, you can choose which part you're going to print. Okay. Now another way that you can see sort of have a visual representation as well is if we go to the view menu. So your view menu, you'll see here we've got the page break preview. So most people look at the normal view, but we also have the page layout and the page break preview. Page break preview. So let me just show you this. So we can see here where we've got all of these pages being set. Now these ones here as well are actually draggable. So if I had a slightly smaller one, let's say that you have got that thing where you've got 1 column that's just printing on its own page with whatever you've done, you can change these. You just drag these. It'll take it a little while, but so you can drag these. So you can see there I've got that 1 column that's going to print on its own page. I can just drag that. Now what I'm actually doing when I'm doing that is I'm changing the zoom level of the print. Okay, so that's what I'm doing. If I now go to Control P to print this, you'll see I'm now down to 434 but what's changed is this custom scaling. So you see here it says custom scaling. So I have done some custom scaling. If I go back and say no scaling, that sort of resets it, if you like. Okay. All right. And we'll have a look at that scaling another time. And you can see that's now gone back to a different way of this being set up. All right. We've also got then the page layout. So this will give you a good look so you can see. And you can come in here and you can change sizes of things and that sort of stuff. And again, you see you've got your page 1 of 1,184 pages here. Okay, so these different views are very helpful to you as well. So as I say, the page break preview, and also you've got your normal view. Okay, so those views are really helpful for setting out if you do want to print your whole spreadsheet. As I say, another thing that you can do is, remember it's on the page layout, is to do your print area. You can also do your print page breaks in here as well, but that is actually, I find that easy to do in the view screen instead, just by dragging in that print area. Okay, so yep, so you've got your sent print areas and you've got your clear print areas as well. All right, so that's sort of controlling what's going to print, but now let's see if we can make our printing look a little bit pretty, but useful. So we've got here this print titles. We can actually get to this from lots of different places. So when I open it up, it'll look like a fairly familiar dialog box. Okay, so we have 4 different pages in here. Let me just go through them one by one. This is where you're going to find all the good stuff. Okay, so remember that, yeah, we quite often find the good stuff in there. Oh, look, there's one of those. Those are always handy, aren't they? So this again is going to take you to the same thing, this sort of page setup, this print titles thing as well. It's all part of actually the page setup. Let me just show you, there is another place where we can get to this. If I again go Control P, I have the option to do it here as well, page setup, and it's the same boxes. Okay, so there's lots of places where you can get to this, and this is where they hide the good stuff. So on the page here, I can choose whether it's going to be portrait or landscape. Okay, so how is it going to print? There is an option to do my scaling here. So I can say I want to adjust this to a percentage. So I may say, you know, I want it to print at 50%, and that will make some changes to it. What I can also do is to fit it to a specific amount of pages. So I can say I want this to be, you know, 10 by 10 or something like that. That is completely up to me. This is such a big spreadsheet that if I say I want to fit it to one page, it's going to have it's going to be completely unreadable and completely not useful at all. But that can be useful for smaller things, and that fit to one page can be really handy. Let's say, as I said earlier, you've set your print area to just print off a part of a report, but it's still sort of going over a couple of pages. It's one of the easy ways to just say, no, just fit that onto one page, thanks, and it will automatically do it for you. We've got here a way to change the paper size. So there's multiple places to do that, but I can say, yeah, I want this to print onto A3s, sort of quite a common one. And then you've got your print quality there as well, but that's normally be fine. The first page number, I can auto it, or I can change the page numbers. So if I'm actually going to put this as into a report, for example, I'm not just going to insert, I mean, I would just insert it into a report, but if you've already printed off some pages, you can just change your first page number here to something else. Okay. We then have the margins as well. So here you can change your margins as well. So that will help you to get more columns and more rows onto a particular page. And you can also from here choose to center on page horizontally and vertically. You see how the little, it's given me my little demo here. So I can choose where to center it. So that's quite good. Another place with the margins, by the way, let me just cancel out there. You actually have that in your, some of these you have here in your sort of basic options as well. So things like your orientation is just there. So if you're just making quick changes, you don't have to go into that page setup. Here we can also change the page size, and here we can also change our margins. So here you've got, you know, you've got your normal, you've got your wide, you've got your narrow. You've got your last custom settings. So if you've done some custom settings before, it will show you what your last ones were. And if I click here on the custom margins, guess what it's going to open up? It's going to open up my page setup dialog box again. Just before, I'll just show you the scaling is here too. So we've got the scaling and we've got fit sheet on one page. Okay, so again, that's your quick option for just going, if it's a small thing, just go bang, fit it onto one page. We've got fit all columns on one page and fit all rows on one page as well. So that can be very handy too. And I've got my custom scaling options. Oh, I've got a question. Just hang on a moment. I cannot see any of your screen. Same page showing. Oh dear. Is anyone else having a problem with only being able to see the same page is showing? Let me just check all my options. What am I? Oh, my screen is frozen. Oh no, what a disaster. Okay, let me just pause my share. Let me stop my share and let me retry that. Okay. Okay, I see a couple of people have raised their hands. So let me, okay, now seeing changes. Okay, let me try sharing my screen again. Share my screen. Maybe if I try just sharing the Excel spreadsheet rather than my whole desktop. Okay. Okay. So hopefully you can see that now. All right. So let me just quickly run through what I was looking at there. We've got this, the page setup option, which is down at the bottom of this screen. But we've also got a lot of these options. If you're doing simple stuff, is on here. So we've got here some options like printing your active sheets, print entire workbook, or print selection. So that print selection, I showed you earlier the print area, which sets your print area up for sort of sort of forever, if you like, until you clear it. So anytime you go to print your spreadsheet, if you set a print area, it will only print that print area, unless you click on here where it says, can you see, ignore print area. But we've also got this print selection, so that will only print the current selection. So that allows you to sort of do setting a print area on the fly, if you like. Okay, we've got some options that are really to do with your printer, whether you're collating, whether you're using staples. You've got your quick access to your orientation, your quick access here to your page size, your quick access to your margins, so you know, normal, wide, narrow, your last custom settings. If you go into custom, it's going to open up your page setup. And here we have, say, that scaling. So fit sheet onto one page, fit all columns on one page, or fit all rows on one page. And again, if I go to my custom scaling options, guess where it opens up? It opens up my page setup. Okay. So we've looked at the page tab, we've looked at the margins tab, and let's go look at the header and footer tab. So your header and footer allows you to add, you know, headers and footers. So we can come in here and we can say there are some pre-built ones like page one of the bookings. That's just the name of the sheet. I've got University of Adelaide Confidential and so on. So I've got some different ones in here. So a whole bunch of ones that I can do from there. I can also add, it's the same ones that I've got for my footer, but I can also add a custom header or a custom footer. So let's say I went into my custom footer. I can just type anything I want in here. Yep. And I can come in and then I can change fonts and change sizes and that sort of thing. I can also then say, so that would be on the left. In the center, I might say, well, I want insert the page number of page number of pages. I've got things like the date, I've got current time, but I can come in here and I can say insert the file path. So that can be very handy if you've got printouts, you know, so that you can actually find the file again if you're looking at a printout later on. You can insert the file name, you can insert the sheet name as well. So I could, you know, insert the file name there, and I can put pictures in. So I can say that. Okay. And then let's say in the header, I could say printing. And I can sort of go in here, let's make that 24, and let's make it, oh, I don't know, something like that. And let's make it a nice color, and then say OK. And then I can say OK to that. I could have got things here like different odd and even numbers, different first page. So you can have a different thing on your first page, you know, align with the page marginal scale with the document as well. So you can see now I'm getting a preview of what they're going to look like. So if I now say OK to that, you'll see that. Now, why is that not come in color? It's because my printer is not set up to be in color. But there you go. So you can see I've managed to add all that stuff there. And the final one is the sheet. So the sheet tab in here can be really handy as well. So we've got here the print area. So this is another way that you can come and set the print area. You've got here the rows to repeat at top and columns to repeat at left. So if I just come in here at the moment, you'll see with my print preview that I'm not getting my column headings being repeated, but I can actually set those to repeat. I will just need to come back into here to do that. But with my print titles, I can say rows to repeat at top, and I can do that. And then when I go to print preview, we'll see here that that now repeats at the top. Okay. Another really handy thing in the sheet one is this one here, which is grid lines. So you'll notice that at the moment it's not going to be printing my grid lines, but if I click grid lines there and then say OK, it's now going to print the grid lines for me as well. So that can be very handy. It'd be handy to have that turned on, or it can be handy to have that turned off. You can of course do more custom things around that by adding borders around certain cells and not around others, but not printing the grid lines. But printing the grid lines is just a nice, quick, easy way to actually have that stuff without having to go in and put borders around all of your cells in your spreadsheet. Okay, so what else have we got here? We've got whether we want to do black and white, we've got draft quality, and we've got row and column headings as well. So we can add those printed. If you've had any comments, you can have those displayed. So you can either have them at the end of the sheet to have any comments that are for the spreadsheet, or actually just displayed on the sheet itself. So if anyone's added any comments for review, and you can also show how your cell errors would be displayed. So you might just display them as they are, or you might just say not applicable or blank, or put this little error in there. Okay, and then you've also got the page order. So do you want your pages to print down the way, or do you want to print them over the way? Okay, so there's some useful stuff on the sheet one. So that's taken us through all of these. So page, how you got your page set up, you've got your margins, which will affect obviously how things print, how many columns and rows you can fit on a particular page. We've got the headers and footers, so there's some inbuilt ones, or you can go and just go for your life and do your own ones. And then there's this stuff around the sheet as well. Now there's a little button here that we haven't explored yet, which is options. So you'll notice that that options button appears on all of these tabs. It takes you to the same place. Which actually just takes you into your printer options. So for example, here I can change my printing to color. I can put staples on. What you get in here will depend very much on your printer. I'm using the follow you printing for staff. So that allows me to make some choices there. Depending on what printer you have set as your default, we'll show you what you've got in there. So if I say OK, that should then change that, and then say OK to that. That now changes my thing to color. There we go. All right. Okay, so Oh, one more thing. There's only one final thing. You know where they hide the good stuff. There's always some stuff under options. There is actually very little in options because they expose so much of that stuff, because it would be different for different spreadsheets. So it gets exposed at a spreadsheet level rather than at an Excel level. The only stuff you can do in the printing is in the advanced section. And the only thing we have here is print is high quality mode for graphics. So there's just a little thing down here that says print high quality mode for graphics. So if you do have any graphics within, it'll just mean that within your spreadsheet, it'll make them print using high quality settings. It's not particularly useful. All right. So that kind of brings us to the end of everything that I wanted to show you about printing. So let me just run through. I'm really sorry that we had that problem with it freezing. Hopefully that got fixed. But let me just run through again what we looked at. So one of the things to do is go and look at your view, to look at your page break preview. So your page break preview is going to show you where your page is going to break. So where you know, so you can see that we might have on here, you'll see I've got a whole page that's only going to print with one column on it. That's kind of annoying, so I can just drag that, and while it updates, that's going to change, and that's essentially changing the scaling, remember. So that's just changing the scaling, so I can do that, and I've now got things printing on page 1 and 2 just there. Great. So that's that page break preview. I've also got a page layout, so that layout is exposing things like my header and footer. So I can come in here, and you see now I've ticked in my header and footer. I can now come and choose again. That's just exposing that stuff that we saw in the page setup, but it's just a different way to get to it. Okay, but it's all the same options. Okay, so that is my page layout view. Let me just come out of there, go back to my normal view. Other things that we can do is on the page layout, you've got your print area. So if you select a piece, you can then go, hey, set my print area, and then it's only going to print whatever is in part of your print area. And then you are also from here can clear your print area. You will also be able to get to that from your print title. So you can set your print area in here, and you would just then clear that of any. So if I went here, I went like that, I went like that, that's set my print area. If I go to print preview, it's just going to print that little bit. So if I come back here and go into my print titles, so another way to clear that would be to delete and say OK. And then when I go to print my print preview, you'll see we're back to that 444 pages. Okay. So yeah, just remember that in that print titles, we've got this page stuff. So your scale, so you see my scaling change. That was just by me dragging it in my print preview. Sorry, in my view of my page break preview. So I've got all these sorts of things in here, and paper size and so on, and my orientation. I've got my margins, I've got header and footer, and then I've got the sheet stuff, which is where I get that good stuff like the grid lines and making sure that you're repeating a row at the top and so on. All right. And don't forget, you can get to that. Some of this stuff we'll get to just through the file print menu or Control P, as I've been doing. And you'll get a lot of these options are exposed if you just want to do some easy stuff are exposed here on the left-hand side, and things such as, you know, fit sheet on one page if you're just printing a small thing and so on. That's another way to get your page set up. So that brings us to the end of the of our webinar. That was pretty much everything that I wanted to show you about printing. So hopefully you've got a few tips from there. I'm just going to launch the poll, and let me just go. We do like to know whether or not you found this useful, so please let's just launch. Let us know what you think of that. The next webinar is going to be on match and index, which is a way that you can combine them to do VLOOKUPs, which is not dependent on, which won't break when you add extra columns in. So if you're not too sure on VLOOKUPs, I would advise you to watch that webinar again. If you're not too clear on VLOOKUPs, then you might find that index and match a bit much. So yeah, that's the next one, and then we're going to do one as well, another one in Excel with all about formatting and so on. So that will be everything. All right. If you have any ideas, things that you'd like to see, then please contact us at it.training@adelaide.edu.au, and we will hopefully be able to include that. All right. Okay. So any other questions? Okay. In that case, I'm just going to close that poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you. Okay. All right. Well, if there are no other questions, just raise your hand if you're frantically typing a question. No? All right. Well, in that case, I will say thank you, everybody, for coming, and we will see you next time. Bye. Bye.